County. Oh, thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, so again, this is Beth Drucker, Go Green Wilmette, and Go Green Illinois, co-facilitating with Kim Stone. We welcome you to our November 6th meeting. It is our 51st meeting of the group, and feel free to share the link. It will be on the Go Green Illinois website, and you can share that link with people starting tomorrow. Welcome to 4 new groups: Greener Glenview, Go Green Glen Ellen, Go Green LaGrange, and Go Green Crystal Lake. There's an important gas-powered leaf blower meeting on December 7th that decision makers from your community are invited to. And please be aware there's a Forest Preserve referendum in 2022, and the Cook County Friends of the Cook County Forest Preserves are asking all of our groups in Cook County to have that on their radar screen. There are interesting issues about school bus electrification, a great webinar. We'll be able to put the link in the chat. And then Kim Stone is going to give you a couple of other updates. But again, thank you very, very much for all of you for signing in. We are already at 47 participants from 24 communities. So we have an opportunity to move ahead together and to make suburban Chicagoland as sustainable as it can be. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kim Stone to introduce our speakers and address a few other topics.
Okay, thank you. I added the dates for those events that Beth just mentioned, and there's some links, and for one of them there's just an email address if you're interested in signing up. In addition, there is a webinar tonight that the Audubon Society is doing that we will get the link to and add to the chat a little bit later. We also want to talk about 2022 topic ideas. We're talking about CEJA and solar energy as being our potential topic for January. So if you have speaker recommendations or items of interest within that topic or other topic suggestions, please add those to the chat so that we have that information as we plan for that meeting. And the one other thing is that Beth and I cannot run this meeting and take notes at the same time. We do not have an intern right now. If there's anybody who is willing to take notes today or at any future meetings, please just go ahead and start taking the notes and then let us know, or email us or put it in the chat so that we know. That would be really, really helpful. If not, we're just going to be posting the videos and not putting notes up on the website. Okay, and then the other piece I had on my list to talk about was the PACE bus update. PACE, which is the Suburban Transit Agency, has committed finally. I think somebody needs to go on mute. If you're not on mute, please do. So PACE, the Suburban Transit Agency, has committed to electrify their fixed bus routes by 2040, and they are planning to start with Waukegan. They're going to buy some electric buses for the Waukegan garage, I believe, next year. Whether they'll be actually delivered next year or not, I don't know, but at least they're planning to buy them. And that's been a huge effort over the last 3 years, which I'm very excited about. In addition, there's an RTA hearing because the RTA has to approve funding for all of the transit agencies. And there's been very slow progress in Chicago at electrifying our public transit. So if you're interested in learning more about the RTA hearing, which is December 1st, and how you can get involved in that, there's a meeting on that tonight, and you can just put your email in the chat and let me know you want to participate, and I'll send you the link for that meeting. Okay, so today we're going to talk about climate change, which is a daunting topic, which I like to say I've been working on professionally for now 31 years. And it's just overwhelming to think about climate change and what we can do about climate change. COP26 just wrapped up. There's the federal legislation that includes some funding for climate-friendly initiatives. But climate action is something that we can do locally and regionally. It really is a good example of an area where you can think globally and act locally and have a big impact. So that is where we wanted to go today with the speakers that we've invited. We're going to start with Edith Makra, who is the Director of Environmental Programs at the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus and the brains behind the Climate Action Plan, which is one of the first regional climate action plans in the US. And so I'm going to just turn the reins over to her so she can share more information about that. And then we're going to hear from several different people within our groups and our communities about climate actions that are being taken at the local level. And then hopefully we can wrap all of that together in a kind of how can we work better together and collaborate for better action. And Edith, are you able to share your screen or do we need to? Yes, okay.
Okay, let's see if we've got this straight now. So you can see my screen. We're seeing a slide in presenter mode and you're hearing my voice. Good to go? All good to go. Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. And I know how high energy and rapid fire these meetings are. So let me dig right into this. So I've spoken to this group before, but just a quick introduction. The Mayors Caucus is a regional not-for-profit organization that includes 275 municipalities. We mostly focus on senior leadership level and are thrilled to have civic leadership at any level in an organization that is working with us. We are an organization that addresses more than just the environmental program, but that is what I manage. We are about 20-something years old. And we were designed to foster regional collaboration. So precisely what we are aiming to do with the climate plan. The regional climate plan, it was just launched in July 13th of this year. And so I will be reviewing the background and the context for that plan, how we put it together very, very briefly. And I'll just touch on the goals, targets. I will go into the goals, targets, and objectives. I will only get a chance to touch on the strategies because there's almost 100 of them. I'll talk a little bit about how we are engaging and supporting the CAP, the Climate Action Plan, with a transition then to how that fits with the Greenest Region Compact, which I know many of you are involved in, and how you can use that in your own community. So start, and again, many of you are already supporters of the Greenest Region Compact, and we're really grateful for that. But I use that to talk about this as a foundation for climate action. I'll come back around to this at the end so you can understand how these two initiatives nest together. But again, from where we come, the reason that the Greenest Region Compact was done, this is a project that in which we studied sustainability across the region. We looked at 290 communities and we looked at all 30 sustainability plans that were done at the time. And we found commonalities and consensus and found really what it is that municipalities can do and do well and want to do is where we came from. And because we took that time to build consensus, it is broadly supported across the region. So now we have 134 municipalities, 4 counties, and all 10 of our sub-regional councils of governments that are behind the Greenest Region Compact. And it's the largest regional sustainability collaborative in the country for municipalities at the regional level. We have the compact, which is a set of just the consensus goals adopted by municipal resolution. If you will, it's the political piece of it. The tools that enables municipal sustainability planning, where all the research went, is disconnected from the political piece. So the Greenest Region Compact framework is a workbook of more than 300 strategies that you can then tailor for your own community. It's designed to do a self-assessment and empowers great sustainability planning. Kudos to Wilmette for demonstrating how it's done. So really proud of you guys for using the Greenest Region Compact for your sustainability plan. And then finally, we collaborate to achieve goals. And this now starts to transition into this collaborative work on the Climate Action Plan. So our regional collaborative, we didn't have climate action plans. While we had all the sustainability support, we had only had 3 climate action plans in the region. And there was a focus on large cities. So the philanthropic organizations were sending resources to all of the large cities. And we as a collaborative were feeling like we were ready for climate action planning and really inviting investment. So Kim Stone and I and Mayor McCombie from South Barrington stormed the castle at the Global Climate Action Summit in 2016 and started to make noise and demand action or support for regional climate planning. We felt was our collaborative was ready, and we were ready for someone to invest in us and give us support so that we could, in the same way that the Greenest Region Compact empowered municipalities to move on sustainability, we wanted to empower our municipalities to move on climate. And so we did find a benefactor, a friend, a very powerful one. So the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy is an organization. It's basically a framework for climate action for municipalities. There are 10,000, if you look at the green dots on the global map, more than 10,000 cities around the world that participate in Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. It is supported by the European Union, who partnered with us on this project. In Europe, particularly, they were starting to do regional climate planning, which is exactly what we wanted to do, demonstrating economies of scale, demonstrating a lot of wisdom in smaller jurisdictions working together on regional problems, regional climate change, transportation issues, and things that were of a larger scale. So the idea of regional climate planning was new in the US. So in 2019, we had an opportunity to compete for a spot as a pilot region. We were one of 4 selected and only the 3rd to complete the regional climate plan. So you can see on the US map that we had other regions that were hosted also by metropolitan planning organizations or councils of governments in the US. So we kicked this off in October of 2019 by the way, there was no external funding for this. We relied on data that was made available to us by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning and started to engage collaborators and partners right away. We really kicked into high gear when we were able to secure the collaboration, partnership, and strong support of NOAA, who provided the support we needed to develop the adaptation portion of the plan. So they were just looking to pilot their US Climate Resilience Toolkit, and we really needed help on the adaptation side. So they came in as partners. We were already well underway with outreach and engagement, and you can see the numbers there. A few things that I'm really proud of is that one, all of this outreach and engagement took place mostly during 2020 when we were not able to see each other, and we had to pivot right away to online format. But I'm very proud that we had 53 municipalities participating in our workshops. We did a series of online workshops and in-person workshops. And if you look at the number of total stakeholder organizations, what that says, almost 120 organizations that I read that participated in our workshops, they wanted municipalities to succeed. So that's what's really exciting about that collaboration that we had. And then now to build the plan, we took a regional approach. The reason that it's called a climate action plan for the Chicago region is that the data and the analysis for the 2 primary components of a climate action plan were drawn from regional data. And if you want to infer, going a little bit ahead to how does this matter for your community, is if we look at the regional data, that means the slight differences that you might have from community to community are homogenized in a regional assessment like this. But this does allow you to rest on the data that we've drawn from regionally, our greenhouse gas emissions and our climate risk and vulnerability, so that you don't have to repeat a greenhouse gas inventory or climate risk and vulnerability at your own municipality in order to choose effective strategies. That's the reason for pulling on the regional data. Plus, it's what we had. So we looked at a greenhouse gas emissions inventory that had been done for 2 5-year cycles by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. And the pie chart then shows what the emissions sources are. And do pay attention to this because this differs a little bit than you'll see either at the state or at the national level. So you'll hear national figures, which is the red pie for the transportation sector, is higher in other regions than it is in our Northeastern Illinois 7-county region. Likewise, greenhouse gas emissions that relate to building energy, and if you put the blue and the green pies together, that's 69% of all emissions come from stationary energy, or which is used by building energy. And then there's a small portion, less than 3%, that when you combine wastewater and water, they contribute just 3% emissions. And this water is utilities, pumping and moving water. I can dig into that a little bit more if we have time, but It's all in the report if you want to get more details. Similarly, on the climate risk and vulnerability side, we looked at regional data, and this is not a robust set of data because climate adaptation planning is really just getting off the ground here in our region, but we were able to draw from regional data for flooding occurrences, for heat vulnerabilities. We coupled the climate risk and vulnerability assessment with historical records, as well as input from our workshops in order to get perceptions of climate risk and vulnerability. And as you can see, so it's a heat map on the right. You can see that Chicago is at greater risk for the red is the heat islands. And then some of our other cities like Elgin, Aurora, and Joliet, Waukegan on the map are also denser and more at risk for extreme heat. So that kind of data led to the plan then and the structure of the plan. So if you look at this CO2 emissions rising on the right-hand side, we hope that that dotted line means that's where it stops this year. So our plan is half of the plan is built on mitigation strategies, or what needs to be done to stop emitting greenhouse gases or greatly reduce them. Recognizing that the greenhouse gases are already in the atmosphere and that they'll take decades or hundreds of years to dissipate, we have to adapt to a climate that's already changed and will be with us for a long period of time. So just as much focus on adaptation strategies, and the whole plan is centered in equity. With a full knowledge that there are going to be communities that are more vulnerable to impacts of climate change, and that there has been inequitable investment that have created these conditions, and that anything that can be done either in mitigation to correct the inequities of the past, and for adaptation to focus specifically on vulnerable communities, is where the plan is rooted. The unique part of our plan, I talked about the regional approach, and now when we go back to a regional climate action plan for the Chicago region, or climate action plan for the Chicago region, our members are municipalities, and that's where our constituents are. And we recognize that there are unique strengths and some limitations in our ability to influence things for climate action. So the plan specifically focuses on what we call those municipal levers. Municipalities can lead by example, change their own operations, their own decisions, their own investments within municipal operations to take sensible climate action. They can encourage others to take climate action as well. And this is actually one of the most powerful segments of the plan based on the research that we did for Greenest Region Compact and what the data bore out as we were preparing for the climate action plan. Municipalities have a lot of influence in their constituents to take sensible actions, particularly when it comes to climate adaptation or anything that you're doing on a small scale to adopt new behaviors can be supported and driven by municipal encouragement. Similarly, municipalities can encourage others, such as businesses, such as institutions and other governments, to come along on climate action. And finally, municipalities have unique authorities related to policy enactment. This is both for local codes and policies, but also supporting strong climate action at state, federal levels as well. So with that, kind of coming back to then how does this municipal action that begins with the well-being of people. So remember, local governments are very close to and very accessible to constituents and residents. And it is those voices that are heard that drive climate action, but also that's where the buck stops, is, you know, protecting the well-being of residents and the quality of life. You know, connecting through multiple layers of government, through the regional level to the state level, at the national level, we can have global impact. So this is, again, when we look at the power of collaborating, working together, and leveraging municipal strengths. So now digging into the mitigation portion of the plan, let me start with the wedge graph. And this graph is, what it does is it takes the greenhouse gas emissions data that we had and puts it through a set of models for what might occur in the future. And this is, so right now, let me explain how this works. You'll notice there are multiple colors that will get into the sections of the mitigation plan. But if you started our baseline year for the greenhouse gas inventory, it was last completed in 2015, and we're at 119 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent annually. So that's our starting point. And if you're wondering why does the pie get bigger? Over time, there are more emissions. They seem to be rising, and that is indeed because they will. Because based on current trends, we will have population growth. And so those emissions will continue just based on where we're at now. The 2050, if you see what we need to push down, the downward arrow there is where we're aiming for with a target year of 2050 in our plan. And one more animation, I don't. So the thickness of the wedge describes how important that sector is for us to address with strategies and policies. So right now, if you're looking at the biggest portion, decarbonized energy sources is the blue in the middle. That's our power sector, and that is building energy use. The whole top three pieces, the orange, the green, and the blue, are all related to stationary energy, building energy and power generation. So much of the plan focuses on that. The smaller pieces, which I'll get into just briefly, transportation in light blue, transportation is also in pink, and sequestration from using nature-based solutions is a small contributor to reducing emissions as well through our strategies. And if you're savvy, you will note that the net zero baseline at the green bar at the bottom is not reached in 2050. And this is, we get to a little bit better than 80%. And the reason for it is this is a science-based target. And there was the data that we had, the tools that we had for modeling did not show that we were able to get to 2050, get to net zero by 2050. But we set it as a goal because we know we need to get there. So if you'll allow a little bit of wordsmithing, that soft green color means that's the innovation that is needed, including better data and analysis over time that gets us to net zero. So that's the difference between the goals and the targets, and you'll see this coming up next. So our overarching goal is to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions. We set these interim targets, including a fairly aggressive one that looks at reducing our emissions by 50% by the year 2030 from the baseline year of 2050. The end result is an 80% emissions reduction, again, from that baseline level by 2050 with an interim target in 2040. Mitigation objectives then. So I'll go through these again, unfortunately, fairly quickly, but demonstrate leadership to reduce emissions. These are what is called, these are enabling actions, for which are really important things to do, such as supporting a sustainability commission or appointing sustainability staffing. These are really important steps, but there's no measurable emissions reduction. So that's the leadership objective. The next objective, now we get into the meat of it, decarbonize energy sources, reduce fossil fuel in the generation of energy. Optimize building energy. This is both energy efficiency and electrification, cleaner energy sources of buildings. We separated out implement clean energy policies because this is such an important area for municipalities, and there's many ways to move forward on that. So that's its own objective. Decarbonize transportation. This addresses cleaner transportation, eliminating the internal combustion engine. Reduce vehicle miles traveled means move around other ways or don't move around, but don't get in your car. Manage water and waste sustainably. Apologies to any of our water advocate friends and waste recycling advocates who don't want to all be lumped in, but this is again a small source of emissions. So these are all lumped together, and the strategies are very much focused on energy use related to those that sector. And finally, the nature-based solution category, or urban forestry and natural landscapes, healthy landscapes, and their role in sequestering carbon. I will say, just for the nature-based solutions, you will also see them very strongly in the climate adaptation portion. So I'll focus on just one objective just to demonstrate how the plan is put together and encourage you to spend some time reading it. But looking at the decarbonized transportation objective, so this is a snip from our list of strategies in the appendix. And the overall objective is decarbonized transportation. Remember, this is about cleaner vehicles. And let's look at one strategy, which is adapt development processes to accelerate investment in EV charging infrastructure. And we're really excited about this. We've been working towards building a program called EV Ready, which I know we've talked about. But this is the strategy for local governments. And if you look at the municipal role there, it's enact, which means both policies and codes. If you look at the rest of the columns in this example here, you'll look at decision-making tools for local governments to prioritize which strategies they choose. And the solution status, that's a level of risk. Is this new technology? Is this something that's really everybody's got this figured out? We should just do it. That's what that means. The greenhouse gas emissions potential puts into words what the numbers tell us. And you can see, pick your strategy there, but the EV charging example, enabling in both instances. Then cost and effort required, again, helping local governments to prioritize which strategies to take action on. And I don't have space nor time to go into all of it, but for each of these strategies, we also list the equity considerations, the partners that are going to be helpful in achieving these strategies, as well as outcomes and what we call co-benefits. So when you have climate mitigation and adaptation come together, where there's benefits for both, we call those co-benefits. So that's the structure of the mitigation portion of the plan. So now onto the adaptation side. And adaptation, you'll often hear it used interchangeably with resilience. And they are used interchangeably. Resilience implies that adapting to climate change means that we know that there are changes coming, that the infrastructure and the communities and the social networks and everything that we built is not necessarily going to stand up to the impacts of climate change. And if we understand that, we are building resilient communities, which means that we have the ability to thrive and enjoy these co-benefits from making sensible investments in climate adaptation and building back better. So I know you've heard that a lot in the last few weeks, but that's really what resilience means. And based on the climate risk and vulnerability assessment that we did, we paired those threats, and the highest threats in the region are extreme precipitation leading to flooding and extreme heat. So we paired those with the assets, which could be people, infrastructure, systems that are going to be most impacted. So these are called hazard impact pairs. The last one is drought and water supply, which is the second tier of threats, but it is indeed a threat, and some communities are at greater risk for water supply challenges than others. So the climate adaptation goal, this is not as much science-based because we just don't have data. So you'll hear a little bit more words and less targets here, but we are looking for persistent, equitable climate adaptation. We have interim targets as well, and most of the work that needs to be done in the early years is around climate resilient governance. We hope to then build collaboration and resilience across jurisdictions for a true regional resilience with the target of cohesive, resilient communities in the year 2050. And the adaptation objectives, I will click through these quickly, but what I did when I started out the plan, and I felt like we didn't really understand adaptation, when I looked really at the strategies, and this is based on a lot of research of other plans, it seemed as if these steps, these objectives are all really within our wheelhouse. So adaptation is less scary now that I've worked on it than it was before I started on the plan. So for the purposes of recording, engage and educate the community, incorporate equity and inclusion, collaborate and build capacity, enact plans and policies focused on adaptation and resilience, And then finally, that lead lever, if you will, which is adapt operations and investments for future climate conditions. But there's a lot in educate and engage that can be very helpful. And I will not go into strategies again for the purposes of time, but I wanted to point out this is what the appendix of adaptation strategies looks like. And so you'll see familiar strategies, municipal role. You'll also see it organized around those hazard impact pairs. So if your concern is around heat and health, you can see, well, those strategies, how will those strategies impact that primary objective of protecting the health of vulnerable people from temperature extremes. And so to wrap up then, we'll just say that we're in the first step here, which is support municipal engagement in the CAP. So we just launched in July, and in September, after I took a brief vacation, we sent out an invitation to municipalities to adopt a resolution supporting the objectives of the Climate Action Plan. And we're very pleased that so far we have 23 municipalities that have already endorsed the goals, which probably is more communities already on a net zero goal. And it's just supporting the goals. So if your community is a little hesitant about it, it just means that you're behind the plan, you support the goals. There's no commitment to necessarily do anything. But that's a strong momentum. The next step, which I'm going to take a minute to talk about, just to close the loop on the Greenest Region Compact, but we want to integrate the Greenest Region Compact and the Climate Action Plan because of the strong support that we have on the Greenest Region Compact and because it's a tool that works. We are looking to raise funds and foster partnerships so that we can implement. And then, of course, we are continuing our regional scale implementation like residential energy efficiency. And we hope to launch our EV Ready program at the beginning of the year, which would be regional scale implementation. And so if I can take my last, I'm probably already 2 minutes over, but I did want to close the loop on the connection between the Greenest Region and the CAP. And I want to talk about the next step, which includes tracking and reporting, because I think this is very relevant to the communities. I said we're the largest regional collaborative for sustainabilities. I've always had a crush on Sustainable Jersey, which is a statewide collaborative. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I will say that they have an online platform that allows municipalities to join, to report their actions, to earn points, and then to participate in projects through this portal. So this idea of ranking, of tracking municipal progress and providing feedback to communities in the way of scoring and in the way of recognition is next on the horizon for the Greenest Region Compact. It will integrate the Climate Action Plan. So just to brag a little bit more about Sustainable Jersey, is this each community has a profile, which is an open portal and accessible to residents. So you can see why this would be useful for municipalities to share with their constituents. And then of course, for transparency and accountability. But as a regional program, it also allows us to focus on who's interested in residential energy efficiency and who has that as a objective that they want to work on. And again, I'm buzzing through this, but just to be respectful of time. So although this is a primitive slide, if you look at how the Greenest Region Compact framework, so hopefully this isn't the first time you're looking at it, but that pink advanced renewable energy objective, that's a Greenest Region Compact objective. We had a lot of success with adopting codes and permitting practices to support renewable energy systems in the community. That carried forward into the Climate Action Plan. So that strategy, a little bit reworded, is now a Climate Action Plan. The metrics that might track for this that would help inform both the community and our region might be things like how many permits did you issue for rooftop solar, and what's the kilowatt capacity. These kinds of things are important to both community, to inform community progress, as well as to track progress across the region. So I have talked plenty, and I am going to cut it off there. And if there's any time for questions, I welcome them.
Great, thank you so much, Edith. I've heard this before, as you know, but it's just so useful to have a framework for how our communities can go about making progress on climate. There's one question in the chat that I'm going to ask. And then I want to go directly to Evanston. And then if other people have questions, they can put them in the chat and we can get to them a little bit later. So Candace has asked how the plan considers the lack of reciprocity with EV charging hardware. And I don't know if that's in this plan or if that's in the EV Ready component.
I'll use that to explain that for a climate action plan, these are very high level objectives. And so there's just kind of a bigger bucket that says address EV charging infrastructure, make sure there's a network. We do dig down into the EV Ready checklist, and there is a buying and decision guide, which I will share the links in once you guys start talking about something else. So it's not specifically in the plan, but in a companion plan called EV Ready.
Thank you. So these are all really important tools, the Climate Action Plan, the Greenest Region Compact, the EV Ready tools. These are all things that our communities can use because many haven't even started to address these issues. And so these give kind of a framework and a wish list or a to-do list that we can take to our staff members in our municipalities or to our Go Green groups and start working. Because it gives just a good, well-vetted list. And there are communities that are doing some of, I think, everything on the list already. So there are examples out there of good ways that we can get involved and start these things. So also, I just need to say one more thing. I mean, Edith has been working on this for 3 or 4 years now. A huge amount of work has gone into the Climate Action Plan, the Greenest Region Compact before that, and the EV Ready program. And a shout out to Cheryl Scott as well, who I believe is on here, who works with Edith. These are tools that we should all be using to get our communities to move forward and take these actions, whether they be in the policy level, which is for elected officials, or city staff, or whether these are things that can be done by grassroots groups. And there are both within the plan. So I want to jump right to some of the communities. We've got 5 different communities that are going to just give 5 minutes each about what they've been working on. And I want to start with Kara Pratt, who's the new Director of Sustainability in Evanston. Kara, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And then we can go ahead and do questions a little bit later on. But if you've got questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I can insert them as possible. So Evanston is one of the few communities in the area that has a full-time sustainability coordinator. And this is an important thing to have somebody on city staff or village staff who's looking at these issues and who's keeping track of sustainability efforts and moving them forward. So welcome, Kara. And I will let you take it away because I know you have a meeting that you need to get to as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Pratt. As Kim mentioned, I'm the new Sustainability and Resilience Coordinator for the City of Evanston. And we also have another new position, which is a Solid Waste Coordinator, who is represented by a person named Brian Zimmerman, who started just a little bit before me. So I've been on staff for a little over a month now, and Brian has been on staff for just about 3 months now. And it's this solid waste position that I think is a really important addition to our team, in that it helps us achieve some of the zero waste metrics written into our climate action plan. And Evanston has had a climate action plan for many, many years. The most recent iteration is referred to as CARP, the Climate Action and Resilience Plan, which was passed in 2018. So my primary responsibility is implementing all the different aspects of CARP. And fortunately now there's someone else on city staff who's taking on all of the waste, recycling, composting, and sort of different waste stream sides of CARP. Some other recent developments in terms of what we're working on is trying to identify projects that would be relevant to ARPA funding so that we can make those connections within our community to building resilience post-COVID that would also reflect our priorities written into CARP. So one of those is the Affordable Resilient Housing Retrofit Program, which is a grant-funded effort in partnership with Elevate and the Center for Neighborhood Technology, which was essentially a research project to identify how we can promote affordable housing retrofits in terms of energy efficiency and stormwater management so that we can keep affordable housing in our community, but also ensure that it remains affordable and that it aligns with our priorities in terms of CARP. So reduces the energy burden for communities of color, for example. Beyond that, we're also looking into our own municipal operations. So we also have a study that was just completed that would give us a pathway towards zero emissions as a municipality. So those are sort of two big important, I'll call them research projects that were just completed in my first month. So I inherited them as deliverables, and I'm looking into how we can fund and implement what the recommendations are. So I hope that helps. I'm really excited to be a part of this group and to continue to learn from you all about this region. I'm coming from southeastern Wisconsin, so fairly familiar with what's going on around here. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Kara. I know that you've got to go. So does anyone have any questions for Kara before she has to jump off? Okay. If anyone does have questions for her, I'm sure I have her email address, so I'm sure we can forward those on, and you're welcome to stay as long as you can. And thank you for being here. Sandy Weiss is going to talk a little bit about what is going on in Northbrook.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me participate in Go Green Illinois' meeting. I'm happy to be here. I have just put into the chat a link to the Northbrook Climate Action Plan. And there on that page, you will see not only our Climate Action Plan, but also all of the backup materials that we're creating the plan, and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about. So I think it was 2019, the village of Northbrook decided that its then several old climate action plan needed an update. And excuse me, Life and Truths.
Your sound is a little bit off. I don't know if anyone else is having trouble. It sounds like there's an echo, and I'm wondering whether you're signed on maybe twice on two different devices.
I don't think so.
Or if you've got a headset that you're able to plug in, that may help.
Oh, okay. Let me see what I can do. Okay. I'm going to suggest if you want to switch to another speaker while I get straightened out, that might be helpful.
Okay, we will do that. You know, we've got a question for Edith, so I'm going to go to the question and then maybe we can go back to Sandy. A question from Bob, which is, what best practices can Evanston constituencies draw on to inform the development of a three-way agreement between the city of Evanston and the school districts to support youth-led climate action resilience planning?
Is that to Kara or to me? Oh, no, that's to me. I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Do you mind?
You know, let me try and answer it from my perspective. The city of Highland Park has something called the sustainability task. What's it called? It's a sustainability task force that meets about quarterly, and that involves the city of Highland Park, the Park District, both of our school districts, the hospital, because it's one of the larger employers in town, the township, the library, you know, all of the different governmental bodies. And that group, it's called the Green Alliance. That group shares ideas and information and tries to figure out ways in which we can work together on sustainability initiatives. That is probably a good model. Lake Forest has something similar called the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership, which also involves sort of a multi-jurisdictional group of people working together, because the city and the school districts are separate taxing bodies. So it's unlikely that the city would provide money, for example, to the school district. That's kind of what I'm getting a little bit from from your question, in order for the school district to support these youth-led actions. But the city could help support with staff resources and with technical advice and information that the city may have that they could share with the school district. And then likewise, there are things that the school district may be doing in terms of energy efficiency in their buildings, for example, that could be shared with the city and with other governmental bodies. So there are already partnerships established that can probably be built on to do this. So with that, Sandy, are you set up or should we go to the next person? Oh, and I'm seeing Northbrook's Climate Action Plan also has quarterly meetings among intergovernmental representatives. So that's definitely a good way to go. Why don't we go to Carl from Naperville, and then we will go back to Sandy.
Great, thank you. Would I be able to share my screen?
Yep, do you see that option at the bottom?
Yep, I see it. Yeah, I have 3 or 4 slides that will help in the discussion of what our sustainability efforts are in Naperville. I'm a member of the Naperville Environment and Sustainability Task Force, and a key deliverable of that task force was a Sustain Naperville 2036 report that was completed this past summer. And in order just to, let me explain, who NEST is. It's a group of climate interested, climate activist individuals that came together in 2018 that evolved into a city-sponsored, city-supported task force in 2019 with expectations of action and work to create a sustainability plan for Naperville, and that comprises about 50 volunteers from many professions. And this is our charter or our mission that we always talk about. Our NEST group task force was established to assist, inform, and advise administrative and elected officials of the city in identifying and prioritizing sustainability initiatives for the community in order to ensure a high standard of livability, achieve sustainable management of natural resources, and maintain economic prosperity. And what I like about this, why I joined this group, is that it is a group that has both the challenge as well as the honor of being part of our Naperville city government, as well as the city staff, to actually implement the work that we've got. So I mentioned that we have this report, and prior to the report coming out in August with many recommendations, it's a 300-page report that you can see by going to the sustainnaperville.org website, and I actually show that later in the presentation as well. But there are 50 or so very experienced individuals, many in the disciplines here that have experience in power generation, for example, or in sustainability topics of waste or electrical vehicles, et cetera. And they all have come together into this group. And this is kind of, if you want to know the scope, this is a good one to look at. Okay, this is the scope of what we've been doing. Energy is a really important aspect because a key metric of everything we're doing is greenhouse gas reduction. It's not the only one, but it's the biggest one. Okay, greenhouse gas reduction and energy winds up, looking at Edith's presentation of how what the percentage of greenhouse gas from various sectors, building and transportation. It's very analogous to what our team has found as well. Transportation, mobility, of course, waste, natural resources, building and development. And what I really like about what we've done is we have a very strong metrics and measurement team. Everything we've done, every recommendation that has come out of this report has, well, not every, but almost everyone that can contribute to greenhouse gas reduction is quantified with targets and goals and quantified as we try to achieve our overall objectives. So in the interest of only 5 minutes, I'm just going to talk about the top 3 greenhouse gas reduction efforts. And again, what we did is bigger than just greenhouse gas, but this is really the most important that we have. We are somewhat unique in Naperville that we do not get our electric power from Commonwealth Edison. We have our own power agreement through what's called the IMEA, Illinois Municipal Energy Agency. that we purchase our power from, and the local government, the local electrical department here manages the grid. There are several other communities in the Chicago area that also purchase through this, St. Charles as well as Winnetka. And then there's 29 downstate communities that also purchase through this. And one of the downsides of this is that we are in a long-term agreement for largely coal power. Up to 90% of Naperville's power, as well as these other communities, comes from coal. And that is our biggest challenge, because without that, our objective of reducing greenhouse gases 60% by 2035, which is very analogous to what we've seen, the targets are, is that we will not make it without significantly changing that. And this agreement goes all the way until 2035. So, and then of course, generating 25% of our consumed energy within our municipal boundaries is a target as well. That's a kind of an emerging goal of many communities to achieve this. And then the last one is electrification plans for electrical vehicles and propagation of that into our I see I'm running out of time here. One of the things that we've done is that this plan has come together. It's a collective impact of many different contributors of business, of course the government itself, as well as our residents, with lots of stakeholder engagement, with expectations of leadership from the city staff and council, and it's dynamic and adaptable. It's something that we see we will have to adjust and change as we go forward. But we are very interested in regional collaboration, and that's why I think it's just great to be part of this Go Green discussion here today. So that's all I had.
Thank you. I just want to say it's not helpful to electrify vehicles if all of your electricity is coming from coal.
That is a great point, and go for it. You're right.
Hopefully you can change the coal thing as you move to electric vehicles.
It is our biggest challenge. It's one that with the contract, and we are one of the largest consumers from this contract. But if we can get a few other communities on board through that collaboration, maybe influence can help us to adjust and move more away from that.
Well, Liz Kunkel from Winnetka is on the meeting as well, and she has conversed a little bit, it looks like, about this topic, because Winnetka is also on that contract.
Yep. Correct.
Hopefully with Winnetka and Naperville working together, maybe that'll help move things the right direction. So thank you, Carl, for providing that information. Sandy, are you still here? Okay. Well, let's move forward to Wilmette. And Beth, I'm not sure who from Wilmette was going to be presenting.
We have Alex, there we go, Alex Artiega. He is our sustainability point person in Wilmette and very well versed in Wilmette's efforts to develop a sustainability plan. So thanks, Alex, for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Artiega. I'm a management analyst for the Village Manager's Office, Wilmette. I'm also the staff liaison to our Environmental and Energy Commission. So I've been pretty involved in the passing of the sustainability plan and whatnot. So I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of the last couple months or so. So on September, I believe it was September 27th, our village board, September 28th, our village board adopted the Wilmette Sustainability Plan. Our sustainability plan uses the framework as part of the GRC2. So it should look familiar to a lot of the members on this call. I'll put a link to the video of the presentation and to the plan itself once I'm done speaking. So anyway, after we after our village board adopted the sustainability plan, it's a very comprehensive plan. It's about 68 pages or so. So we figured we kind of look through the plan and try to choose a couple of initiatives that we wanted to prioritize in the coming year and in the coming months. So those topics that were chosen amongst our environmental and energy commissioners were renewable energy, urban forest preservation, and native pollinators, or native habitats with kind of a focus on pollinators. So anyway, currently village staff, myself and our assistant village manager, we are looking at renewable energy programs, community solar programs, things of that sort. Our land use committee of the village board is actually looking at our current tree preservation ordinances and seeing in which ways we can strengthen it. So that kind of leaves native habitats to our environmental and energy commission. So in the next 6 months or so, commissioners on that environmental and energy commission are going to be looking at some topics within native habitats, things like dark skies, pollinators, wildlife habitat certification for local governments, and just kind of seeing what steps we can take as a village that kind of falls under that purview of native habitats. So anyway, we're going to be looking through these working groups that are a part of the EEC, and then in addition to that, we'll just kind of review what other priorities we think there are within our sustainability plan for the coming year. I know things like gas-powered leaf blowers is something that has a lot of resident interest. So I know that will be a focus going into 2022. And then just kind of other items that are either seen to have interest from residents, from our trustees, or from our staff in general. So as of right now, we have a plan that's been adopted. We have a couple initiatives that we are focusing on, for the coming months. And then from there, we'll just kind of see where public feedback and where village staff feedback takes us regarding pursuing some of the initiatives that we have outlined in our sustainability plan.
Thanks, Alex. This is Beth Drucker from Wilmette. Just want to also mention that Wilmette is beginning a reviewing and revising our comprehensive plan. And it's our goal to make sure that sustainability is thoroughly integrated everywhere in that plan. The last time we did it was the year 2000, and this was not even on people's radar screens. So if you live in a community that has an outdated comprehensive plan, that's a great place to start. Thanks again, Alex.
Okay, thank you. And I'm glad to hear that you're working on a lot of issues that other communities have worked on and that we've talked about here. So the dark skies thing is something that Highland Park has incorporated into our lighting code. So please steal that information. And other communities have done some of the other things you've mentioned as well.
And the chair, sorry to interrupt, the chair of our Environmental Energy Commission is very, very interested in dark skies policy. So that's definitely gonna be something of interest for our commission.
Well, definitely be in touch with me or with the city manager or assistant city manager in Highland Park. Happy
Sounds
to
great.
share. So where are we? Northbrook. Sandy has dialed in by phone, I think. So let's see if we can hear you. You need to unmute. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you. I think you're on mute.
How about like that? Can you hear me? Is that working? Is that better? No, not?
Give it a try. I'm still hearing the echo.
Is there anyone from
How
Northbrook?
about like that? Does that help? No, I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties.
Is
Well-
there anyone from Northbrook on the call whose audio could allow you to do a quick update?
Yes, I can give it an update if you can hear me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry,
Yes.
Sandy.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Sandy. So I can just speak briefly. I'm Tessa. I'm the sustainability coordinator for the Village of Northbrook. I was also a Greenest Region Core member before I became the sustainability coordinator. So I was part of the Greenest Region Core that Edith was the director of. So I really appreciate her rundown of the regional climate action plan. Our board actually just recently supported the regional climate action plan. So that's a recent development from Northbrook, but otherwise we have our climate action plan that was adopted specific to Northbrook in early August. Excuse me, my dog has decided to come sit next to me now. So With the adoption of our climate action plan, the board listed their top 10 priorities from each category. And so our categories include building energy, green space, local food, transportation, and land use, really just covering all of the major aspects of sustainability that I'm sure we're all familiar with. And when they listed their top priorities, that was really when we got to start pinpointing the projects that will be coming out of the plan. So coming up for Northbrook, we'll be installing EV charging stations. So we're hoping to get a plastic bag tax in the works coming soon. We have a demonstration food forest coming up, and we're hoping to achieve 100% LED streetlight conversion by 2030. So those are some of the big projects. And yes, we also have our sustainability commission that Sandy is a part of that's helping with the implementation of all of these things. And yeah, our intergovernmental team as well has created some success with the library adopting the climate action plan. Some of the school districts are looking into it. One of our school districts have already adopted it. And this is really helpful for, getting all of the different governmental entities involved in projects. Like we have projects coming up with students and with the library. So thank you. And I'm sure Sandy would have done a great job. And if I missed anything, please include it in the chat. So.
Okay, thank you, Tessa, for stepping up with that information. That sounds great. I hope that when you convert your streetlights, I hope you can do it quicker than that, but I hope you choose ones that are 3,000 Kelvin or less and that are dark skies compliant, which Highland Park has done. And ComEd is now doing.
Yes, we're using ComEd's energy efficiency funding. So that's helpful to get both bird-friendly lighting design plus LED involved in those updates.
Great. And excellent that Northbrook has hired you to work on sustainability. And especially excellent, Edith has a good track record, as I was saying in a meeting I was on earlier today, of getting the Greenest Region Corps members hired by local municipalities and units of government. So if anybody has a young person who wants to be a Greenest Region Compact member going forward and be not guaranteed, but be almost guaranteed to get a really great job afterwards, Edith is your person. So I am next. If you haven't heard enough from me already, I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about what we are doing in Highland Park. I have taken borrowed the PowerPoint that was given last week to our sustainability advisory group. Let me just put this. Okay, can people see my screen? Can anyone see my screen, the greenhouse gas?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Highland Park has been working with Quercus Consulting. They are on an hourly basis. They are our sustainability coordinator. And they put together a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We've signed on to the Mayor's Covenant for Climate and Energy. So we have the emissions reduction goal set. And we've been looking at this goal because we don't think it's necessarily aggressive enough. So she put together this presentation. And what we have talked about is keeping the existing goal, but looking at adding a long-term goal as well. Our current goal is 5% of greenhouse gas reduction by 2023. And we are already beyond that. So that's good news, but we don't want to get rid of the existing goal. It seems that it's better to layer other goals on top of that so we don't reset the clock. This is some information about the progress, and I'm showing these more so that you can see kind of the format that we have used. So we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions fairly significantly, but we think that the pandemic is a significant player here. A lot of the reductions have been in commercial rather than residential energy use. And that's probably because a lot of stores were closed for some period of time or reduced their hours because of the pandemic. So we don't expect these to necessarily continue on the current trajectory without more action. So overall, we've had a 10% reduction from baseline. And as you can see here, most things have been on the right path, although natural gas has gone up. And we attribute that to the weather and more people staying home, that we had a colder winter than the baseline winter. And we've also reduced the amount of recycling, which is a bad thing. So we need to figure out how to kind of jumpstart recycling and get people doing that again. So as you can see here, a lot of the problem here, at least in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, is natural gas use among residential users. Electricity is the second biggest, but those two things, as I think Edith mentioned before in her presentation, are really related to our buildings, and Highland Park has an older building stock. So what is it that the city has responsibility for, and where are areas where the city can take action to impact those things? So we've talked about making available energy audits through the utility companies. We've talked about changes to our building codes to try and encourage either renewable energy use or energy efficiency, or probably both, and possibly doing some things to incentivize the purchase of more fuel efficient heating and air conditioning equipment. So this is the baseline breakdown, whereas the previous slide was where we are now. The only difference is that commercial energy use has decreased in the last couple of years. And again, that's because of the pandemic. But just these charts and graphs are good ways to look at things and try and figure out what can be impacted. Landfill is that little yellow sliver of the pie, 2%. Edith mentioned this as well. Waste is something that a lot of our groups spend a lot of time working on, but if you're interested in climate change, it's not something that has a big impact. So what we talked about in more detail was putting in place a 10-year goal, keeping the same baseline, but some sort of a reduction of, this was just what was proposed, 25% by 2032. We also talked about adding a net zero goal by 2050. And those are still in discussion. And hopefully we will be taking action at the next meeting on doing something to put in place a longer term goal. But I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here. The good thing about having these short term goals is that it gives you someplace you can go easily. That we have in place strategies and plans of how to get there and what areas we need to reduce our energy use. And that means we actually make progress rather than just setting these long-term goals where you go, oh yeah, sometime between now and 2050, we're going to be at net zero. We can actually say, we're going to reduce our fuel use. We're going to change over our fleet vehicles to more electric or hybrid vehicles. There are concrete steps that we've listed and that we're planning for in our budget. So that is basically what Highland Park is doing. And I think we should open the floor to questions at this point if people have questions for any of the speakers so far, because we're going to go on to hear a little bit about bird-friendly buildings.
Kim, I was interested in your mentioning that a lot of our groups spend a lot of time and energy on waste and recycling, which is very important, but a lot of us are not getting at all involved in the energy use of buildings and vehicles in our communities. Give us a couple examples of how a community group might get involved.
Well, there are energy audits that are available either for free or for low cost from the gas company and the electric company. So promoting those sorts of opportunities. We can also be providing education and incentives well, there's already incentives in place from the utilities. I got something from ComEd, I think yesterday in an email about some smart thermostats that they have available for something like $25. And these are like $200 thermostats. And they have discounts on light bulbs, LED light bulbs and things like that. So there are a lot of things that can be done in the home that we can provide education on that are not too difficult. And Edith has asked about the cost and effort involved in the greenhouse gas inventory. So the city of Highland Park has aggregate data for electricity use and for gas use within the city. We have data for all of the residences and then all of the commercial buildings in town. Those are two separate data sets. So we're able to put that information together to come up with our baseline. And then there's some kind of less accurate information based, I think, on the gas tax revenue that provides information about transportation. But you know, we're the first municipality in Lake County, right on the border of Cook County, and there's a bunch of gas stations right at the corner, you know, between Lake and Cook County, because the taxes are lower here. So there may be a lot of people not from Highland Park who are buying gas here, so that number is a little bit skewed. But those are kind of the components, and then our sustainability coordinator put together, or the sustainability consultant put together that greenhouse gas inventory. In terms of the cost and the effort involved, I'm not exactly sure because that was done several years ago. But it's a fairly substantial commitment to go through and you know, do that. But once you have it, it's easy to update because it's basically a spreadsheet. We can plug the new numbers in each year when we get those numbers. And if not, I just want to emphasize the city doesn't know like how much energy each individual person uses. The city knows how much energy all of the residential users in Highland Park are using. Other questions? There was a question about geothermal from you. Incentives towards using geothermal energy.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's a hugely overlooked way that we can reduce greenhouse gases. And I know that I have some case studies from some schools in Illinois who converted to geothermal with great success and reduced their energy bills dramatically. And what we keep getting when we suggest it in Lake Forest schools or the municipality is that it's too expensive. And like the Plainfield schools, they found out that they actually saved a lot of money in installation by doing that, and it's much less expensive. And
well, I think there's two different kinds of geothermal. So one involves drilling a very, very deep well. And we have clay soil here, which makes that even more difficult. There are other areas where you can put the tubing for the geothermal under, say, a pond, and they've got that situation at the Glenview Park District building next to Apt over on the Tollway in Milwaukee. That's a lot cheaper, and that's something that can be done fairly easily when you're already building a building or if you're building a retention pond. But the drilling of the well is what's super expensive. So it pays off if you're doing a very large structure, but for a home, at least in this area, it's still out of reach in terms of price. I actually priced it out when we did some work on our house. So based on that, you know, sample size of one, I think it's still too expensive. But yeah, for bigger buildings like a school or something like that, it would work. But if the building's already in place, which in many of our communities it is, it's harder to do. In Plainfield, I'm guessing that was a new construction building, that might make more sense. They also probably have a retention pond there. They probably have more land than many of our school districts have. So it's a great idea. I think it's something that should be included in policy going forward. We should make sure it's easy to do, like we've done with SoulSmart. But I'm not sure, you know, how we could put in place incentives at the local level for that. But we need to move on because we've got another speaker, Donnie Dan, who's going to talk about bird friendly. Donnie, you're signed on more than once, and I'm concerned we're going to have a problem like we did with Sandy.
Well, Donnie figures out which line he's going to be on. I just want to encourage all of you to stay on, because as soon as Donnie's done, we're going to hear very short reports from each of our communities. I know that the talk about doing greenhouse gas emission studies and huge climate action plans is really daunting, and it's way beyond what many of our communities are doing. We're also going to be talking about just the kinds of things you can do in your community now that are not quite as daunting as this important work that we've been talking about today. So Kim, go ahead with Donnie.
Donnie, I'm going to share my
Hey, myself, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. I'll say at the outset that I'm very comfortable with questions as I go. So
I can't hear you, Donnie. You're
The audio isn't working. Can you share his slides, Kim?
Yeah,
how about now? You hear me?
not well.
Well,
Here, try now.
I'm not sure. Can't speak any louder without screaming.
I don't think it's the volume. I think it's something,
Connection.
yeah, something with the connection.
Well, I'm not sure how to go on. If you're hearing what I'm saying,
I think it's a bad internet connection, Donnie. Is there a way that Kim could summarize what you hope to say?
Well,
Or Donnie, can you turn off your video?
yeah, that may help.
Turn off your video so we just hear you.
okay, stop video. How about now?
Yes.
That's better.
Okay. All right. This is the last group that has to be reminded about the need for this, but I want to start with that. In the journal Science, just under 2 years ago, the results of a long-term study was done that showed a decline of 29% in the bird population in North America. That's 3 billion lost. And that's not endangered species. That's common birds, very horribly black finches. And you recognize that birds provide insect control, seed dispersal, and pollination, but their value is far more than what they do for us. Their value is inherent. Can't measure the value by their service. They're no sooner than you value the Amazon rainforest by the pharmacy shelf. So the cities that you see in this list come about. There's some recognition, and not all bleak waterfowl are on the increase. And that's the result of legislation that's been passed, North American Conservation Act, Species Act. There's a great deal of protections can be achieved. Before I go into this, I want to emphasize how this comes about. I worked locally, and for the past 12 years, I have personally acted and cultivated every member of the council and the mayor. I've had with gotten to know them, and I emphasize the importance when the new public building bill was passed and the
Donnie, we're still all having trouble. You're coming in and out, so we're still having a lot of trouble hearing you. I'm sorry, we may have to just delay this presentation till our next meeting so we can get you on fully. In the meantime, Donnie has shared this list, which is not a comprehensive list of legislations, ordinances, and guidelines on bird safe buildings. And this is I don't know if this was to be part of your presentation or not, but this is not rocket science. Highland Park is building a new fire station, and the windows it's going to be sort of a Tudor style building. So the windows are going to have muttons, which are those dividers, which provides for smaller panes of glass and allows birds to actually see the windows. I don't believe that there's any area within the building where two windows are across from each other, because if the bird sees the building and sees the two windows across from each other, they just see what's through the other side, which is maybe vegetation, and they think they can fly straight through. So that's really dangerous. So this is just, things that can be incorporated into the design of the building, which are pretty easy. The other thing that Donnie shared was a link here to a website from Cornell about bird-friendly design, which is a really good website. Cornell is a great resource for this sort of thing. And there's a webinar tonight at 5 o'clock Central Time from the Audubon Society about preventing collisions with birds. So there's a link here to that webinar. I will put it in the chat as well if I can. And he also shared, let me see if I can go to it. He shared one more resource, which is the consumer guide. Let me see if I can share that separately. This is the consumer guide to bird window strike prevention. Now I feel like I'm echoing here. So this is something that if somebody's interested in receiving this document, this is by Daniel Clem, who's the person who's presenting tonight at the Audubon presentation. But if anybody would like a copy of this document, if you email through the Go Green website or email me directly or put it in the chat, I can try and forward that on. I'm not sure if there's anything else that Donnie was going to say, but we'll make sure we include him on a future meeting agenda.
Can I share my screen and show one more?
Yeah, on the bottom, you can use the share screen.
Okay. No, it's not here.
Kim, it's 2:27. We're going to have to move on to community reports, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Donnie. Sorry about the technical difficulties here. So we have community sharing. Do you want to introduce this?
From Chris
Bonnie,
Shepard.
Are you able to share your screen very, very quickly?
Or we can put a post on the website after.
Kim can do it. She has it.
I shared both of the things that you had sent, or all the things you had sent. So maybe I'm missing. We'll post these things to the website later so that everyone can get to them that way. So Beth, what do we have, a minute for each community?
Yeah, unfortunately, just about a minute.
So are you going to time? Should we go alphabetical?
Sure. Let's go alphabetical. And we do apologize that this is going to be very, very quick. This is as fast as we've ever had to do it. But some of you may have dropped off at this point. So we're going to call out the communities that were originally registered who were on the meeting earlier. And if you could just go alphabetical and be really ready to unmute and give us a quick update, that would be good. I can time. Kim, we're starting with Barrington.
We are in one person per community. So maybe communicate with, if there's more than one of you from a community online, communicate over the chat and decide who's going to speak. So Barrington, who's on from Barrington? Okay, we will go back to Barrington. Crystal Lake.
Hi, it's Jan Carter Seymour. I just started this group last month, and I've created a website called gogreencrystallake.org, and I'm basically focusing on invasive buckthorn. It's because we have other organizations that I'm involved with, like the Environmental Defenders in McHenry County. And so anyway, it's really, I just wrote a letter to the editor of the Northwest Herald that just came out, and I'm just kind of getting started. I made 1,000 posters and a PDF file that explains it in, the problem and how to resolve it. So I'll be knocking on doors soon, and I'm collaborating with a young forester named Nina Wojcicki. So, and then Matt Evans from he's in the Chicago Botanical Gardens. He's been advising me on the proper, herbicide formulas and just anyway. So go to gogreencrystallake.org, and if you want to learn more about buckthorn, it's a lot of stuff there.
Great. You may want to look at Riverwoods Preservation Council's website as well, because I know they've done a lot on buckthorn. They even have a booklet, I believe, about buckthorn eradication.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Deerfield, Debbie, I see you're on. I don't know if anyone else is on. You're on mute.
I don't know if anyone else is here. I think it's just me.
Okay.
We had a very successful tree walk. About 20 people turned out, and it was very informative. But our big news is Deerfield has formed an ad hoc working committee with 7 participants. Those are our trustees, the sustainability committee, Go Green Deerfield is on, and the mission of the working group is to establish a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030 and be 100% carbon neutral by 2015. And the village proclamation urging local governments and municipalities to lead the way. So we've only had, I think maybe as of this week, there's been 3 meetings, but the feedback of our 2 committee members that are on it is that the chairperson is gung-ho, and it seems that everybody really feels that Go Green Deerfield is going to lead the way. So they're very, very receptive to the things that our group has worked on. So that's
Thanks.
the big thing, and very,
Thanks,
very
Debbie.
exciting.
Great. Evanston. Is there someone from Evanston?
And be ready to be unmuted if you can speak up in the first couple of seconds. We'll give you your time.
Okay, Glen Ellen is next, and then I'm going to skip to the end of the alphabet and come back. Anyone on?
Hi, yeah, Jacqueline here from Glen Ellen. I have Karen Daly on as well. So our group is about 2 months old. We're loving it so far. We did our first event a couple of weeks ago. We did a trash pickup and a hike in this Glacial Ridge Park with the park steward. Everyone learned a lot. We picked up a bunch of trash, so that was great. Right now we're doing a fall photo contest. So we're asking residents to take pictures of trees and post them. We're doing that with the Glen Ellen Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to be a part of a village post-Thanksgiving event where we're going to be able to introduce ourselves and give out a chamber gift card to the tree photo winner. So promoting, appreciating beauty in our village and getting more people to care about the environment. So for December, we're going to just try to get people to other events that the Park District is doing, volunteer restoration work days, and yeah, more to come in 2022. And thanks to everyone who helped us get started, because there was members of the group that helped.
Excellent, welcome. Winthrop Harbor, is someone on from Winthrop Harbor? Otherwise, Liz, you're next from Winnetka.
Thanks, Kim. Sorry about the shine behind me. So I'm the head of Go Green Winnetka, and I'm also part of our Environmental and Forestry Commission. And on the commission side, we picked up about a year ago on some work that we'd started pre-pandemic, and we're able to work with a work study student from Northwestern to put together a draft sustainability plan using the 10 categories of the GRC2. That draft plan was introduced to our EFC in May, and then once the climate action plan was released in July, we worked on a gap analysis and represented it to our EFC this past week, which meeting coincided with our the consultant who had been previously retained to lead the process of our 2040 comprehensive plan process. So we've basically got elements from the climate action plan, we've got elements from the Sustained Naperville 2036 plan, and we've got all of that in front of our consultant, jump-starting the process for our comprehensive plan. I've also been named to the Plan Commission, which is the commission within Winnetka that writes the comprehensive plan. So I'm super excited to be part of that. On Go Green Winnetka, we had our first inaugural retreat last weekend and are working on strategic planning short-term for 2022 and long-term 5-year plan what we want to be when we grow up, which is Go Green Wilmette. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Beck. Thanks, Liz.
So Wilmette, Beth.
Okay, so Wilmette adopted their sustainability plan, which we use the Greenest Region framework to start with. We're working extremely hard on a tree ordinance, taking the best from nearby communities that have great tree ordinance and getting guidance from the Morton Arboretum and the Chicago Region Tree Initiative. We're also working really hard on the gas-powered leaf issue, and we will be hosting with Go Green Winnetka a meeting about that December 7th. If your community is working on that, please be sure to join us. We continue our online webinar series. Oh, I forgot to time myself. Anyway, I'm going to stop, but I know this is overwhelming, especially to the younger groups. Some of us have been doing this for more than a decade. Welcome to the newest groups in Go Green, Illinois, and best of luck to all of you to catch up and do the very most you can in your communities. Thank you.
Thanks. Vernon Hills, and then we'll go back up to Glencoe and Glenview. Someone on from Vernon Hills. Okay, Glencoe, Hall.
Yes, speaking for Glencoe, biggest thing is our work on the gas-powered leaf blower. Presented to the village board a plan for banning them by 2024. We're now working with other communities, as Beth said, to have a region-wide or as big a region as we can to have a ban, thinking that it'll be more effective with landscapers and with other vendors. We also have a Glencoe bird, which if I can share a screen, I will show it to you. It is just magnificent. Our artist, Helen Latham, is on the call. She designed this and we're going to use it in all kinds of communications village-wide. The other thing is a no idling campaign at schools. We have signage for that as well, which I won't take the time to show now. We've also had webinars, which we are sharing sponsorship with other organizations in Glencoe, like the Friends of the Green Bay Trail and the Glencoe Community Garden, which is an offshoot of or sponsored by Shalom. I thank you, and that should be it. Membership, we're trying to get more members. So instead of making them a formal part of our group, we've asked if they would join specific teams, like the Green Lawn Initiative that Helen and I and Sandy are involved in. Thank you.
Excellent. Glenview, welcome to Greener Glenview, first of all.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Mary Monday. Here, let's see, there we are. We launched on the 27th, and when we announced welcome to the launch of Greener Glenview, we got applause from the audience. There were over 30 people. It was very exciting. We've had a forest preserve walk led by the forest preserve. We're planning a green drinks, and we've been doing a lot of networking, just networking, going to meetings and talking with people and trying to get organized.
Good, thank you, and welcome as an official group. Highland Park, Jenny.
Hello. December 1st, we are doing an EV talk with Go Green Winnetka. We are searching for clever names as well. So if you have a clever EV title, drop it in the chat. Highland Park is going to be starting a National Wildlife Federation Community Wildlife Habitat Certification Program. Led by one of our newer members, Candace, which is going to be awesome. So we're going to help people in the city convert their yard to habitat, or if they already have that, get it registered and, try to get the entire city as a community habitat, which I think is really important on the lake as well. And we just had a successful plastics discussion after the story of plastic with Go Green Vernon Hills, and we had about 80 people at it. And we also started our YouTube channel thanks to Beth and her encouragement. I figured it out and started to record and download those larger meetings, and now we're there. So I think that's it, unless I missed anything, Kim.
I don't think so. Thank you. LaGrange is next, and then I'm going to skip back down to Skokie and Riverwoods. Anyone from LaGrange? Okay. Skokie, is anyone on from Skokie? Riverwoods, Lori, do you have a report?
I do. I'll be very brief. We had a wildly successful recycling event in early October. We got so many textiles. We had 6 huge van-sized boxes full of textiles and 1 huge van-sized box of shoes and a lot of other things too. It was phenomenal. 90 cars from all over Lake County. And the other thing I'll mention is that we are still fighting a new gas station in Riverwoods. We went before the Plan Commission, and unfortunately the Plan Commission voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the gas station. I was the no vote on the one. So we will take our fight to the Board of Trustees in December, where I don't think we'll be successful, but anyway, somebody needs to speak up about citing new fossil fuel sources in this day and age. So we will continue the fight.
Great, thank you. Park Ridge, I think there was somebody on from Park Ridge. Chris, are you still on? Okay, we're going to go back up then to Lake Forest, Lake Bluff.
We have on December 30th at 7 p.m. we have our summer intern is giving a presentation at the library online on food waste reduction, the project he took on over the summer. Everybody can attend, it's free, you just need to sign up with Lake Forest Library. We have been working on participating in a holiday pop-up store at the train station for nonprofits, where we're going to promote sustainable products such as bar shampoos, laundry detergent sheets, wool dryer balls, and bamboo utensil sets. And then we have a lot of our members are very busy right now with a campaign called GoRealGoGrass.com. And that's because we're trying to fight that our park district wants to convert 10.5 acres of natural grass fields into synthetic fields, because they shed off tons of plastic every year. Each field, they emit PAS and PFAS and methane and lead into the air and waterways. They're causing heat islands. They cause more injuries, but there's a lot of environmental factors. So a lot of us are very busy with that right now, that campaign. We got the city council to postpone the decision until March. So right now we're working on trying to inform as many residents on the issue. And we're actually pretty shocked over that there's no oversight or legislation anywhere. We know other counties, and I hope that we can do that for some of your groups. Other counties are getting legislation through to have oversight, because all these synthetic fields only last 7 to 10 years. And we're talking tons of plastic for each field. And then they end up in our landfills shedding PAS and PFAS and all sorts of nasty stuff into our environmental ecosystems.
We let you go over because this is an issue that is really important to all of our communities. You shared some information with me. When you talk about microplastics that are coming off these enormous fields and then they get replaced every 7 to 10 years, it's a huge footprint of plastic. And I think a lot of communities are not really looking at the environmental impact. They look at the cost savings as the only deciding factor. So thank you. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
We have a website called GoRealGoGrass.com. And we also have created an email called GoRealGoGrass@gmail.com. And we're just trying to get the word out. And we really would like to find out how we can get help passing some legislation with oversight, because other countries are starting to restrict these PAS. We know they're carcinogens, they're full of them. The newer versions don't have as many parts, but then they are full of each artificial grass blade is full of PFAS.
Yeah. So there's also a heat factor that's just tremendous. They generate a lot of heat for your hard work on that.
Maybe something we should put on a future topic for a future agenda. Libertyville or Lake County Green congregations. Is there someone on from there? Do we have Lincoln?
I don't think so.
Do we have Lincolnshire? Morton Grove. I think Gia was on. I don't know if you're still on. Mount Prospect. Is anyone still on from Naperville? Northbrook.
Great.
Is there someone from Northbrook who wants to update us? Okay, Northfield, somebody was on from Northfield.
Trudy Gibbs was on. I'm not sure whether she got on.
And Carolyn was on as well. Okay, has anybody not been called or not spoken, any communities that I don't know of? If so, just unmute yourself and, okay, Dor, yes. Trail.
Hi, I just wanted to say Green Bay Trail has put the trail to bed this weekend, and part of our mission is to engage the community with lectures and trail activities. And we don't have any lectures coming up, but we are gathering to celebrate the winter solstice by adorning ourselves with lights and marching around the trail at between 5 and 6 p.m. on December 21st. And we'll meet at Shelton Park in Glencoe. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Or do you know what the program is that the Glencoe Library is putting on this fall? Maybe it was in January. No, okay.
I'm not sure.
Never mind. That's all right.
I think I just recently approved it for so it's on the Go Green Illinois website under events.
What is it, Kim?
I don't remember what the program is, but it looked interesting and I remember putting it on the website.
Oh, it's climate change with Don Wubbles, who is a very, very well-known climate change specialist.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's on our calendar.
What village is
It's supposed to be superb.
Do you know the date, please, Hall, for that?
I think it's in January.
I'll check and get back to you before the call's over today.
Okay.
Okay. And I see Bernadette, you've asked to speak for Go Green Northbrook.
Yeah, we've Go Green Northbrook have been working on the gas blower initiative that somebody else was talking about. We also had Green Moments where the trustees had a report from a college student about sustainable fashion. So there are just a couple of things we're working on right now, along with composting and waste initiatives.
Great. And I believe, let's see, but it's Senator Fine is on, but is looking like Ben Isabel. And you wanted to say something?
Hi, I just wanted to mention that next year, a big piece of legislation that both Senator Fine and Representative Von Gershwitz are going to push is a ban on polystyrene, or styrofoam and food containers. So that's something that they're going to be really big pushers of next year, next session in 2022.
Great, thank you.
Ben, Laura Fine introduced a bill to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. Do you know whether that bill is going to be reintroduced?
There is talk of that. We haven't sort of settled either way on that yet. But we're looking at, like, we're seeing all the local municipalities that have banned it or restricted the use of it, and think that that's like a hopeful sign. And if we were to introduce it, that would be a really great selling point.
Yeah, well,
Great.
We're hoping to have lots of action for you in early 2022 in the north suburbs.
Look forward to it. Thank you for all the work you do.
beginning with Evanston and continuing to Glencoe and hopefully expanding from there.
We'd love to have someone from your office at the December 7th meeting if possible.
Sure, I'd be happy to make sure that happens.
Thank you, Ben. We'll
Thank
send
you.
you the link.
Okay.
Beth, the Don Weibel's talk is on January 12th, 7 o'clock in the evening at Glencoe Library.
Okay.
Okay, and because it's a Zoom event, I'm assuming it's open to all.
Yes.
Great.
And for those who don't know Don, he's an expert on climate change from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. If you want to know the impacts of corn of climate change, zip code by zip code and degree by degree, Don is your guy. He has all of that data. It's unbelievable how much detail he has about what the impacts of climate change will be in this region. These
are examples of where groups can, we can really leverage our efforts. If it's a topic that you think your folks would be interested in, just ask the Go Green group that's hosting it if you can promote it or even be a part of it. Go Green Highland Park and Go Green Wilmette are going to partner on that EV talk. The more groups that want to share each other's activities, the more effective we'll all be.
Yes, and that's sort of why we exist, right? Go Green Illinois, is to share information and ideas. Hall.
Can I just make one comment about the gas-powered leaf blower? We made a presentation to the village board. It hit the Chicago Tribune, the Glencoe News, WBBM, almost 48 hours worth of coverage from them. It even hit NPR in Montana.
Wow.
So this is an issue that I think its time is now, and that we could get a lot of support for.
The leaf blowers started at 7 a.m. In my neighborhood yesterday and went on until like 6 p.m. So I'd be happy to have a leaf blower ban, but I think we're going to probably have a lot of pushback. So we'll have to see how it goes. Our next meeting is January 11th, and we are hoping to focus on CEJA and solar energy. If you are not already on our email list to get the invitation, please go to gogreenillinois.org and sign up on the website directly. That is the best way to get the notice of the meetings and to get the Zoom link, because we don't usually post it on the website. Beth, do you have other parting comments?
Well, I was very interested in Naperville's goal to create 25% of their energy within their village boundaries. Naperville has clearly a lot more space than some of our suburbs do, but that is something we can all think about. Probably most of our suburbs, we do 0% within our boundaries, but that's an interesting thing to look at. Many thanks to all of you elected officials and sustainability staff people that have spent time with us today. If your community does not yet have a designated sustainability point person, that's something you should ask for. Most communities will say we don't have any money to hire one. And as Alex could say, or can share, we just designated him as the sustainability point person. He already had a full-time job with the village, and we added this to his list, his to-do list. Also, check to see whether your community has a sustainability web page on your town's website. Take a look at it, go through it. If it's not getting updated, that's an easy fix with a little bit of interaction with your town. A couple other things. We had a Boy Scout who was doing his senior project, and he just exchanged 250 incandescent outdoor lights for LED lights. That was a huge impact as far as energy. And also we're promoting people not using their large open fireplaces, but installing energy efficient fireplace inserts instead. So those are some more tangible projects that Go Green groups can work on that aren't quite so daunting, but with the overall goal that our communities have to be part of this global task of addressing climate change. We are some of the wealthiest communities on the planet with the highest carbon footprints, and we all have an opportunity to address that. So thank you for all you're doing. Kim, do you want to wrap up?
Well, Candace has her hand up.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you. I just had one question, and that is, I don't want to ask you to do any more work. Obviously, you're way overloaded as it is, but is there a way to get a copy? I know it goes away when we finish the Zoom meeting, the chat goes away. Is there any way just that we could have an unedited copy of that on the Go Green Illinois website? Because there's a lot of information I haven't been able to scribble down or copy while I've been listening. Others may have the same issue.
Yeah, I can
Yes,
try. I can try and save the chat, or Beth can, and we can post it.
we can download the chat, and that would be great to post, especially if we don't have minutes, Candace. That
Yeah.
can kind of serve as some of our
Yeah,
minutes.
it doesn't have to be edited. Just thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that idea. I will download both. This meeting will get posted to the Go Green Illinois YouTube channel, but the chat would get posted to the Go Green Illinois website where we normally have our minutes, right, Kim?
Great. Right. And Karen has her hand up.
Hi there, I'm from Go Green Glen Ellen. We have recommended a sustainability director or coordinator. Would be great if we could have some job descriptions, because those are a little hard to find online. So if anybody has a job description for a municipality-based sustainability director, that would be terrific to gather.
There is also a National Association of Sustainability Directors, Kim. Do you know about that?
Yes, it's called, Edith, do you know the name of it? It's like the sustainable, there's an acronym.
Sure, it's Urban Sustainability Directors Network. That is a national network. I have found them to be mostly the larger cities that do that. But I do have some that were written for the Greenest Core, Region Core members, and then some transitional positions as well. Who should I send them to?
Go Green Glen Ellen
Okay.
at gmail.com. Be great. Sure. Go Green Glen Ellen at gmail.com. Thank you.
And then you may want to contact Evanston, Oak Park, and Northbrook directly, because those are the ones that have those positions.
Great, thank you.
Kim, we also protect, so Go Green Illinois website has a section called resources. And you might want to take a look at what we have there for resources, like how to become a 501c3, for example. That might be something, Kim, that we might want to try to post in a folder on the website, because we do know that any community that has a good sustainability director is going to make more progress than any community that doesn't have one.
And I see Chris Murphy has said that they have a bunch of these descriptions. So Chris, you know where to find me. If you can email me, I can post that to the website.
And what is ASAB? That's an acronym that she has by her name.
I think she's on mute. I don't know.
Okay.
But she's a climate reality.
And the Aurora Sustainability Advisory Board.
Okay.
And I'm also with Naperville as well.
Excellent.
Okay.
And
Aurora. First
reality.
time we've had Aurora, folks.
Okay. And did we miss anything?
I think we covered it. It's 2:57. We're going to be able to adjourn on time. Thank you to those of you. We don't keep everybody for 2 full hours, but for those of you who have stayed with us, we appreciate it, and all you're doing.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Beth, stay on so that we can make sure to grab the chat.
Yes, and the recording. Okay, we're stopping the recording now.